Hello. Hello, welcome to Everyday Ordinary Extraordinary Women. I am Martina and I'm here with Christina, and we are deep divers and avid students of life and powerful facilitators for healing. In real life, I'm a life coach specializing in parent and women empowerment, and I'm also a sound healer.
And I'm Christina, and I'm an intuitive healer who blends massage therapy and energy work to provide customized, holistic services for my clients. Martina and I both incorporate crystals, essential oils, angelic Reiki, and intuitive guidance into working with our clients.
And we were inspired to create this podcast after pondering on this question. What would the world look like where we can be inspired by every person? Usually we're very quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody's losing. So depending on my point of view, I can either feel small because I come out lacking, or I can be arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. And, those are the only two options, and neither of those options make us feel good. So here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from first impressions. And we invite you, the listener, to go beyond first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There is inspiration at every corner, in everyone, if we are willing to look. And today we welcome Patricia. And Patricia is from Switzerland, and she trained in the very famous, I don't know if is it still famous, the hotel, at the hotel school in Lausanne. And because her parents were in the hotel industry. But then she started working for the International Red Cross, and that was the big chunk of her life, right? So she was in many countries, and she will tell you more about that. She's married, she has 3 children, and she lives back in Switzerland where you're an avid climber, right? A mountain climber. So welcome, Patty, and why don't you tell us more about who you are?
Well, hello, Martina, and hello, Christina. First of all, thank you so much for having me for this podcast. I'm very, very honored. It's my first one, so I'm a bit nervous, but that's fine. I am, I'm an avid climber. That's true. That's the last thing you just said. And it's for me a space where I can replenish and I can also live my pleasure of adventure and connecting with nature, which is very important to me. So I've been starting climbing very late. I'm 63 years old. And I started when my mother passed away in 2009. She was the one who had inspired me for climbing. She was a very strong woman, and she inspired me for a lot of things. And so mountains have always been in my life, but really climbing and really starting to be out there has started in 2009. So that's not that far away. And ever since, I've been on quite a number of mountains, mostly in Switzerland.
It's interesting because you talk about your sense of adventure, and I'm like, you were working for the International Red Cross. Like, what more adventure do you need, right? I guess it's a different adventure.
Yes, it's different because it's not professional, and it's really to replenish myself. It's not something that I'm not out there for a cause. I'm a cause person. I usually go for something because I wake up to something in the morning. But the mountain is really a space where I become very humble. I mean, that's the hugeness of them, and just being out there and having the luxury and the health to still do that. And being so small in such a big universe, and they've been here so long before me, and they will be there so long after me, gives me just kind of a rhythm and breath, a different type of breathing than what I do in my daily life. And even during the Red Cross, I wasn't able to do so much mountaineering because I was in other countries. But now it's really for me, it's something to cherish, because I know also I won't have the fitness to be out there forever. Let's face it. So I really cherish those moments, and I think it's a luxury to be able to do that. And the other luxury is also we are in a country where you can do that without asking a husband if you're allowed to do that. I was in Kabul this summer, and when you see how women are living there, this is the freedom we have here in Switzerland. It's safe, it's clean, it's possible. That's really luxury, right? There's so many people who have not access to that, and I really cherish that.
Beautiful. It is really powerful. And the mountains are, like for me, like if I think of Switzerland, I think lakes and mountains, and they have so much energy. Like you could feel, like when my parents have an apartment close to St. Moritz, and it's like I can feel them calling, right? There's something that is just so incredibly powerful and majestic about mountains. So.
Yes.
And it's not for everyone, but yeah, definitely for me, and it seems for you too.
Yes, totally,
So,
totally. I wake up and I have a 4,000er on the other side of the valley. So wow,
yeah,
it's an inspiration. And it puts myself again into this where we belong, right? Who
yeah.
are we to think that we are humankind is so important when it's just a glimpse of time in the history of the planet.
Yeah. When people talk about things and, hurting the planet, I'm like, the planet's going to survive way past humanity. Like, we're going to kill ourselves before we kill the planet. Mother Earth is going to keep on chugging along. We're very silly that we think we're so important. But yeah. But I too have a love of the mountains because my family has a house up in the Adirondack Mountains of New York, and that's my happy place too. Like, I
Okay.
love being up there, and yeah, hiking the mountains or just sitting in a tree, looking at the
Yeah.
lake. Like, all of it makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like the word happy place. That's really, it nails it. Yes.
When I was a child, I would grab a pillow and a blanket and just lean up against a tree and read a book. It
Mm.
was my little act of rebellion to escape from the house and go be in nature with a book. And yeah, good stuff.
Yes.
So Patty, if we really knew you, what would we know?
You would know that I'm curious. I am deeply connected, not not wired on the computers, but I really believe that everything on this earth is linked. When I breathe in, I breathe the same air as you in New York or in Louisiana, and we share the same water. It's a closed circle. We cannot go anywhere else. So what we have is in there, and that's something I learned from very small already. Through the hotel, I was very lucky to be exposed to many cultures, many languages, be it the people who my parents worked with or guests that came to the hotel. You would know that I love traveling, but lately I prefer living in places. I think through the work we did in different countries with my husband, and I prefer living in places and have the time to discover. I'm not somebody who wants to discover a country within 2 weeks. So traveling and discovering others, going on an exploration on how you get in touch with other people and how you can share, how you can live things together and yeah, share and respect each other. You would know probably that I can be very creative, but I can be very stubborn too. I'm good at figures and I'm good at painting. So I have these two sides, which sometimes I feel torn between the two. And I'm a project person. I create projects, but I need to, I'm not a marathon runner. So my projects, I usually launch them and then I'm happy to hand them over after a while. And I've discovered that not so long ago, and it made me feel much, much better, because before I was always making myself guilty for not doing the things the right way or not being committed long enough and things like that. And this has disappeared since I discovered that actually my strength is to create and to launch and then let go and give it to someone else.
That must be such a relief, right? Because it is like, yeah, if that's your strength, good for you, right? And if somebody else then takes it and runs with it, and you know, like, good for you for knowing what your strengths are, you know.
Yes.
And I know from talking to you, you've created quite a bit, right? And now you're in your next, right? You're training to become a coach, and it's about supporting, you know, supporting women in these countries where they don't have as much right, and so it's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear, right? And it's great that you know what works for you, right?
Yeah,
Because there's many people that
Sorry.
wait for something to happen and somebody to start it, right? Because they're like, oh, this is so exciting and this is so cool, but they don't have what it takes to start it, right? So
Yeah, I think we are given talents that are very different. And thank God. I mean, if everybody was a start kicker, that would be terrible. Nothing would be done, right? So um, I never questioned that when I was in my career with the ICRC, because it changed all the time. Either it was a new country, or it was a new job, or it was a new assignment. So I never noticed that I need this change and I need this other thing. And when I came back to Switzerland and I took over the job of my father because he had dementia. I started realizing that this was going to be my everyday job for quite a while. Luckily enough, we had to transform the hotel. We had other projects coming up. So I didn't get really into this, not boredom, but kind of routine that you don't get the energy out of it anymore. This oomph, you know, that's what I need. That's what where I'm at best. Yeah, I think. Just thinking what else. Yeah, I'm a sporty person. I need the outdoors. It's really it's really important to me. If I stay inside for 2 days, I get nervous and like prickly and I have to go out. So that's very important to me too, yeah.
Balance. You need balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love challenges. Yeah, you can challenge me on a lot of things. I'm not a crazy challenger. I mean, I try to be most reasonable, but I'm quite fast at saying, yes, let's try it.
what a gift.
Yes, I do acknowledge that. But it can be difficult with other people, because sometimes it creates a distance. I think there is fear that sometimes there is fear that we cannot follow each other. So yeah, I learned that too.
I think that is a challenge sometime in relationships when you want to support the people in your life, but if they're involved in so many things, it's hard to support everything that they're up to sometimes. But I also think when if they look at it from the other side, like usually you don't really care if they support everything you do, right? I don't expect every single person in my life to support every single thing I'm up to, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny. And who knows, maybe we're putting it on them. Maybe they don't see it that way. Maybe it's our own perception that's creating that. What we think.
Totally, yes. It's an
Mhm.
assumption I make. That's true. But it's there's also this kind of feeling that because I grew up in Zurich and my parents were both bilingual, French, German. They decided to speak French at home and German at school. And we were asked to really be always adapt to the environment. At school, it was German. At church, it was French. And that was kind of challenging sometimes, but it gave me also a lot of strength. And I think that's something that sometimes gives me the feeling that I don't really belong. But at the same time, it's a huge richness because I have the understanding of the other culture. And so there is a distance because you're not the one from them. But on the other side, when you're on the other side, you can understand where they come from and you can be the translator, which is quite fascinating. And I think that's also what gave me the flavor of going to work with an organization such as the ICRC, because that's a constant thing that you think of.
Yeah, you were introduced to so many different people and cultures growing up that I'm sure it sparked this curiosity in your, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And at the same time, I want to say that I believe that probably most people feel like they don't belong, right? I don't believe that that's something unique to, I mean, I shared with you, I grew up in Argentina and then I lived in Switzerland and now I'm in the US and I will never belong, right? Because nobody can ever understand. But I believe that most people have that conversation of not belonging or not fitting in or however
Absolutely.
you want to phrase it, right?
Yeah.
And if you tell me what you're saying, it's like, yeah, I'm totally curious. I want to find out. I want to learn, right? It's it's a gift that we received, right? And it wasn't always easy. I
No,
mean,
it's true.
it wasn't always easy, but it's probably one of our biggest assets, right? To be curious and to be open and to question and to want to know more, right?
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. I think it's a present for me, definitely. And
Yeah.
I try to give it to my children as well. So we also spoke in several languages, and they do speak several languages. And you open your heart to people when you can understand what the language is saying. Language is not just about words; it's about the culture itself. I spoke Indonesian when I was in Jakarta, and the way it's not a very difficult language. What is difficult is that you have many layers of how to you address people.
Mhm.
So if they're younger than you or older, if they're family or not family, and so on. And just to understand that gives you a total different way of communicating with the people. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah. It's like in the Thai culture, what do they say? They have 10,000 smiles or something like that. And there's a
Yeah.
different, some message implied with the different smiles. And so there's so much you can learn about just the mannerisms and way people are being. You don't need language for that.
Well, and if you're willing to learn, I mean, the added benefit is that it keeps your mind sharp because like you're learning something new, right? And it keeps you excited about life. And there's so many aspects to it, which is
Oh
really
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Mhm. So good. Ooh. So, Patty, what would you say your superpower is then? Would it be adaptability or
Um, I think my superpower is creating solutions.
mm,
I think it's I have this capacity of really feeling into a situation and see what's possible. hardly ever say no, there's no possibility. I love possibilities. And the more there are, the better. But I asked this question to my son, and he said, you're solving problems. And I think it's not the solving the problems that is interesting to me. It's creating possibilities and solutions. It's more the creativity about it, and it brings play into things.
Yes.
Than solving solution, which is heavy. And I think in most of the solutions, as dramatical as it can be, there can be some play and flow and bring something that makes it possible. And yeah, I think that's one of my, that's probably the superpower I would say describes me as best.
So incredibly powerful. And you know, like you have to have an open mind, right? You have to be curious, you have to have an open mind, you know, like possibilities it's just so broad, right? It's just so open.
Well, and you have to like you can't come to the problem with that there's one solution, right? Like or that you know anything, right? So it leaves you so open to anything. And what a great way to go through life then, right? If you can come to life with I don't know anything and what's possible, like it's just spectacular.
Yeah. It starts with, there must be a possibility out there. It's not, there must be something. And usually there is, isn't it? It's out there. We just don't see it. And just to get there and find out I love that.
Yeah.
We had this situation when I was working in South Africa back in 85 or 86. They had riots in Crossroads in Cape Town. And we needed shelter for the people. And we had in our stocks for the ICRC, we were logistically the basis for Angola and Mozambique and South Africa. But we had nothing like tents or stuff like that. And the time it would take to bring tents from Switzerland was too long. We needed them immediately. And I was there, I said, who is using tents in a number that could be useful to us, except for the army, because we couldn't do that with army stuff. And I went to my boss and I said, you know what, we should try to see the scouts. And we got an agreement with the scouts, and where we got their whole stock to build the tents in Crossroads for having camps to have the people with shelter. And then we gave the tents back. We flew them in, and they got new ones. But I don't know where I got the idea about scouts, but it was just suddenly I thought, oh, wow, that's maybe a place where we could ask. And it worked.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Having an open mind. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And probably a bit of divine inspiration too.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm the universe, ask the universe and the universe provides. I love that sentence, right? It makes life much easier.
Agreed. So agreed. Yeah.
And the point is you have to ask, because if you don't ask, nothing will happen, right?
Yeah.
Totally, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us a funny, silly, or embarrassing story.
Oh, I have a very embarrassing story. Terry, I worked on it and I feel much better, but I'm still a bit embarrassed. It was when we worked in Croatia. I was also second for the logistics. It was the war between Serbia and Croatia before the whole thing started with Bosnia. It was the war before. And there were hundreds of people fleeing the border between Croatia and Serbia, and a lot of moms with babies and things like that. I was pregnant with my daughter. And at some point, there was a huge request for diapers, disposable diapers, Pampers, stuff like that. And I don't know why I said that. I really don't know where it came from. I said, but I mean, they have nothing to do. Why don't they wash their diaper? Why don't they use recyclable diapers so that we don't have this whole organization of the diapers that are becoming waste and stuff like that. Oh my God. I mean, I gave birth to my daughter and I thought, how could I say a thing like that? You are leaving, you have to leave your house. You are on the road. How could I even imagine that they would have a place to wash diapers? I was really embarrassed. I was really, really embarrassed. I lived there just after that, we went to Cambodia and we lived there for 2 years and we didn't have any disposable diapers either. That was in 92. And I did the washing of the diapers and I thought, oh my God, Patty, how could you ever say something like that? And what I got out of this embarrassment, I would say, is to really go to the other side and imagine what the other person is in, what situation the other person is in before I start giving advice like that. That has been a huge lesson to me. And really, I'm really humble and really sorry for having said something like that.
Well, but you don't know better until you are in that situation, right? It's like I remember before I had children, and I've heard that over and over from people who are teachers who say, I am such a different teacher after I had children. Before I was like very rigid and I was this and that, and afterwards, it's like, no, I have so much more space and capacity for the children and the parents, right? And I believe there's certain things, we would not have known. But good for you for taking the lesson from it, right? It's like, yeah, we have to be careful what we say, right? We are so opinionated. Humans are
Yes,
so
yes.
opinionated.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's why you say we're very judgmental, very fast.
Yeah.
And rather to be curious and just imagine what the situation is for the other one. You don't have to accept the situation. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's correct, but make the effort to just go over to the other side and imagine what it could look like. And it helped me a lot afterwards.
Yeah.
Also with my children, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's not a funny story, but it was a life changer.
I can get that completely. So, Patty, what made you who you are today? So, for example, maybe like what was your biggest lesson, or what took the most courage, or maybe it was when did you take a stand for something that mattered, which clearly is how you've dedicated your life. But
Well, I think I am who I am because of my family, my parents, my brothers, my children, my husband, definitely. I have very good friends that I can rely on, and that is for me a backbone that gives me the possibility to be out there and take a stand. And then what made me who I am is my experience throughout life, I think. And I got to understand, I mean, there's been a lot of challenging moments, but I was looking for them too. I mean, I did expose myself to that, and it was a choice. It's not that I was pushed into. But lately, I had to deal with my parents who both had big health issues and passed away. And I was at some point asking myself, why? Why is it always on me? What's going on here? And I certainly think that there is this sentence that says, you get the challenges that you're capable to deal with. And I think it applies to my life as well. And every challenge has given me more shape in a figurative way, of course.
yeah.
and with the love of my next of kin, of course, my friends and family. Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And life-changing experiences. I mean, one moment I remember really hard. I mean, that's stuck to me is when I gave birth to my daughter. I walked out of the maternity ward and I had this pram and I was carrying her and I thought, oh, I will never be able to return her. I mean, she's going to stick with me for my lifetime. And it was this huge responsibility for this little thing that was so helpless at that time. And just realizing that I just gave birth, but I also, I mean, that life will end just as mine. So life and death, the closeness of these two moments, whatever time span is in between, that's what just hit me in that moment. I give birth, but I also will have to deal with the fear of death. Of course, I hope that she will overlive me. Don't misunderstand, but just this awareness of how close these two things are is just that made me a woman, I think. There's something changed and shifted there in that very moment.
I think it's so interesting what you're saying about, you know, it's not just that you give birth, you become a mother in that moment, right? It is life altering. It truly is. I remember a few days after my son was born, and I had my cousin was visiting, and so she was taking care of him while I went to the doctor. And I remember walking home with, you know, free and, you know, thinking, oh, wow, wow. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm a child, I have to go home. And it really like it's a whole different world, right? It's like, yeah, and they're fully dependent on you every moment.
Yes.
Particularly when they're so little, when they're older, not that much anymore. But yeah, so tell us when you took a chance for love, and not necessarily romantic. If it is romantic, great, but it doesn't have to be romantic. When did you take a chance for love?
Yep. When did I take a chance for love? I don't think it's just one chance. I think I had several moments like that. Well, the one I just described was probably one of the strongest one, definitely. Romantic, yes. I met my husband in Lebanon, and that was also quite a moment. And it's interesting because our relationship is built on many moments that we shared, which were quite tough in conflict situations. And I think we still nurture ourselves from that because it created a basis of trust, a foundation of trust and understanding each other. And even throughout crisis, and there have been quite a number, this is just what's staying. And I think that's a stand for love too, is this. I appreciate the relationship that we have. And it's not a love, it's not in love, but it's a love with a big L, because it's really based on trust and values that we share and that keep us going. I think that's a stand for love, yeah. Another stand for love is a dear friend I have for over 50 years now. And I mean, she lives in London, I live in Switzerland. And we also had ups and downs and crises, but it's there. I mean, it's not questioned, this relationship. The love that is there is the foundation of the relationship we have. And it's beautiful because we were kids together. We traveled together without having boyfriends, and then we have started having husbands and children, and so it changes, but the love as such is there and is the foundation to all.
So beautiful and so special, those relationships that span those different stages of your life, and you see each other through all of it. They're very special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, same with my husband. We've been together now for 35 years. It's the longest. It's. I mean, my parents were probably the people I knew longest.
Yeah.
But yeah, amazing, and I'm very grateful for that. It's hard work, I must say honestly, but it's worth the work.
Yeah, the rewards are definitely worth it for sure.
Yeah.
So who do you want to be when you grow up? If you could do anything, time and money weren't a question, there were no restrictions, what would you want to do?
Oh, what would I want to be if I grew up? I'm very inspired by a writer, a Swiss writer, a woman. She was born at the beginning of the 20th century, I think 1903 or 5 or something. Her name is Ella Maillard, and she traveled a lot. She was a journalist, photographer, adventurer. I like her independence, her feistiness, her boldness, and yeah, this is somebody who I'd love to be if if I could choose. She traveled a lot in Asia and Central Asia in particular. She did a trip from Beijing to India through Mongolia and all this area on horse with Hemingway. And she wrote a book about that. It's absolutely thrilling. It's amazing. At times she had to wear men's clothes because she wasn't allowed as a woman and stuff like that. So that would be me, yes.
Delicious. And a read I will have to check out for sure.
Yeah.
I love being inspired by those women who were doing things that they were told they couldn't do and did it anyway. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And she's really for me I'm inspired by women in general, and it's something that is really important in my life. But she didn't have the right to vote, right? She was a Swiss and she couldn't vote, but nevertheless, she was traveling and she was driving her car and so wow, what a character. Probably not easy to live with, but never mind.
Probably a lot of fun to be around though.
The book with the Hemingway in English, I think it's called Forbidden Journey, I think.
Ooh, I'm gonna check it out.
You know, you talk about fierceness and who you want to be. I'm like, but you are that already.
I was just gonna say that's who you are already.
That's who I see you. Like that's what I hear and what I see when we're talking here, and it's just really beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because I'm fascinated by this kind of women that I chose what I did, because I didn't think I chose it really consciously. I went to the ICRC because I was looking for a job that would allow me to travel. I never thought I would travel that much. But yeah, I was always inspired by by women who were kind of adventurous, and I could identify to that, definitely. So they inspired me in my choices.
Beautiful. So if you had a magic wand and you could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
I would love, or I dream of people being capable of forgiveness. I think if everyone was able to forgive, and forgive not just in their own life, but also for the past and for the generations before, we could start building peace. I think it's the foundation of having peace is to be able to forgive. And that would be really, that's my view. That would be my wish, yes. My magic wand, that would be the one I would like to see in everyone. The capacity of, doesn't mean that you have to agree with the other, but be able to say, okay, I forgive you. We can take it from here and we can create something different. I'd love to see that.
Is there a part of not taking things so personally in there as well?
Yes. Yes and no. I think it's just to create space, to have the other one also granting space so that they can also be. For me, I don't consider myself as a feminist, but I'm really, really engaged, and it's my cause is that we get to gender equality, but not in the sense that men are not good and the women have to. It's more create a basis of partnership. So as long as we have domination and somebody is suppressed, there is no possibility of having a solid partnership, right? And I think we are complementary. Women and men, we have strengths and weaknesses, and we can complement each other. So as long as we are not unfortunately, equality becomes a very political thing, which shouldn't be, because we are all human beings. So if we can get that understanding, and there is forgiveness too on both sides, even in that field, it's not about the war between Israel and Palestine or so. It's also between us humans as genders. Mm-hmm. Giving the space to the other one to be and live the gender he is or he chose. And that is, that's something I really cherish. And if you say, giving the other one the space to be, the right to take the space to be, that is something important to me. Yeah. That's what I wake up to.
Why I asked about not taking things personally is because a lot of having to forgive comes from that space where you're insulted about something that wasn't really about you, right? So that's where the question came from, right?
In that sense, yes, totally, absolutely. And also
because as humans, we take everything personal.
Yeah.
Right? You cut
as
me
a nation
off
as well.
You cut me off, and I'm like, okay,
what did I do? Did you see the way that person looked at me? And you're like, what? Not to give meaning to person's looks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, giving meaning. But also in the sense of, I'm not responsible necessarily for what happened 100 years ago. I can let go of that. I have the choice to let go of that, and I can create a new relationship on the basis of what is in the present and not the history that has designed us where we are today. Wouldn't that be nice to have this conversation as a basis for peace? Wow.
Yeah.
Or as a basis for gender equality? Give the men the possibility to cry and give the women the possibility to show up strong rather than suppress both.
Yeah.
And in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about in the men's podcast, right? Because it's really that, like, can we break down those stereotypes, and can I let you be who you are, rather than trying to, and I think it's fascinating that you say, can we let go what happened 100 years ago, right? Rather than keep dragging it with us. Oh, because that happened, now I am going to be mad, right? So.
Or the parents telling the children, you have to be mad because this happened 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And it keeps going. The conversation keeps going. And
they wronged us 500 years back, right? Yeah.
And forgive yourself as well. This is important. How can you forgive another one if you cannot forgive yourself? So forgiveness for me is a big word. I think it's important too.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. All right, so last question.
Okay.
What do you want people to remember about you?
I would like people to remember about me that I have been contributing to creating a better world. That would be lovely. Because it's, I think that's what, maybe we are all a little bit designed for that. But it's a call that I feel a lot. I think there is a lot we can contribute and stand up for and be bold and say yes or no, make choices rather than just drag along. Yeah, probably something like that. And I hope people remember me as a loving person and enjoying life. I mean, I have the luxury of having a house, a roof over my head. I have food. I love my life. I love dancing. I love painting. I love beauty. Beauty is important, I think. It's inspiring. So remembering that to be able to enjoy is part of something that is also part of life. It's not all about drama and being serious and committed can be pleasant. It doesn't have to be a weight on your shoulders. Took me some time to discover that.
Life does not have to be hard.
Life does not have to be hard. It doesn't. It is demanding, definitely, but it's an amazing journey, isn't it?
That it is.
It's an adventure in itself. So the adventurous in me is, with my life is quite happy.
So beautiful. Okay, so Patty, normally we talk about your business right now, but you're switching into coaching, is that correct? Do you want to talk about that, what you're up to with one of many, and maybe talk a little?
Yes, I'd love to. So I'm going to retire from my breadwinning job in August, and I signed up for being a volunteer with Ascend for 4 years, a little bit more than 4 years ago, a little bit by chance because it's inspiring. It's training women in leadership by using the mountains and the mountaineering as a tool. And now you can imagine that when I started reading about that in our Alpine magazine, about this woman, American woman, her name is Marina Legree, she has created this NGO, and she worked in Afghanistan with the girls, and they climbed mountains, and they really trained them towards leadership through the experience of climbing mountains and having this teamwork together and all this kind of knowledge that they weren't so familiar with. I thought, wow, yes, this is something that's calling me, because that really is aligned with my values, with what is important in my life. So I got engaged with them, and then I was board member, and then I became chair, and I had the possibility to go to Pakistan last year. We have 4 trainers there who we trained in mountaineering, because women are not skilled for that. So we flew in trainers, and I did some leadership training there with the girls. I was a person who said, I will never be a coach. That's not my domain. It's not me. I'm logistics. I'm this and that, but not that. And I had such a ball to work with these girls, and they were so inspiring by how they were open and asking questions. And so, as I was already training at one of many in leadership, I thought, okay, why not go for this certification, which then will allow me to use these tools that I learned and share it with the women in Pakistan, but also in Afghanistan. And this summer, I had the possibility to go to Kabul, and we have a center there. We do day courses. The girls come to the center, so they gather, which is something that is really important for the women right now, because they are mostly at home and separate from each other. They do a lot online, but it's of course totally different when you are all together in a classroom and you can share, or if you're at home alone and you're on your screen. And there again, I saw this hunger for tools and how to do that, how to face situations and things like that. So I decided to sign up for my coaching certificate, and I hope I will graduate soon, somewhere in March. And my dream is really to continue to work. I left the chair. I have a wonderful woman who took on the job of the chair of the board, and I really hope that I can now work more in the leadership training, and not leadership training, but coaching with these girls, and probably go back and see them live, but also online. We have this absolutely amazing tool called Zoom that you can use. This is I mean, compared when I was starting with the ICRC, we had radios. So this is I mean, sometimes people say, oh, it's all on screens, but on the other hand, I mean, this is quite magic, right? Just to have it.
Oh, it's a gift,
So
especially
yes,
if you're in a little town and isolated. Like, what a gift to be able to meet like-minded women that you're not going to meet normally. So,
totally.
yeah.
So that's maybe my next step. But
Well,
I'm not jumping into. I'll give myself a little bit of space now until I've done my certification, and maybe a little longer, and then craft what the next project will look like.
we are so excited to follow along and see where this journey takes you. And
You can
and then we
sub-
could put links to both of the organizations.
oh,
So if people want
yes.
to find out how to either volunteer or support, we could have links for that too.
Oh, thank you. That would be wonderful, because we
Yeah,
need, and we have, it's a huge budget we have, but Afghanistan is costing a lot, because it's a costly program. So we desperately need resources, financial resources and others.
it's so great. So we
Um,
could totally include links to that in the notes for the podcast. So
wow.
we would
Thank
love
you.
to
That's
support that.
very generous of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, and you can sign up for the newsletter there. They have a newsletter coming up on a regular basis, so you can follow what's going on in Pakistan and in Kabul. We have next week 50 girls graduating from a 4 months program, and the next 50 are already ready to start a new cohort. So this is
It's
great
so
news for
inspiring.
us.
It's really inspiring. Patty, I was so honored to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for your inspiration, for your passion, and for the work that you're doing. It's truly inspiring. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Christina and Martina. This is, I mean, I'm honored really, and I really appreciate, and thank you so much for having given me the possibility to share. And I really like the idea of ordinary, extraordinary, because we all inspire each other, and I think that's how we can grow. Growth is important.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you everyone for being here listening with us. If you love this, please leave us a review. Please share with your friends. And please remember, you are extraordinary and you rock. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye for now. Patty, you want to say bye?
Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening and showing up.